Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dakota Fundraising News Podcast. Today is Friday, October 4th. Cannot believe we're already settling into fall. Last week, the Eagles got blown out by the Bucks, so we're hopeful that we bounce back here in Philadelphia. Speaking of Philly, Konch, what's on the agenda for this weekend?
On agenda for this weekend, I got a friend from out of town visiting. She just did a little Asia trip for like the past few months. So honestly, going to be just a local tourist, see some Philadelphia stuff. When was the last time you've done some local touristy stuff around Philadelphia, Pat?
Dude, I'm not kidding. All the time. Every time I walk literally anywhere in Philly, if you all haven't been, we have these little signs that are on almost, it feels like every street is historic. And they have like, this was where the first XYZ was when the Constitution was written. And I'm reading all of those signs at all times. So I'm the right guy. I'll send you my list of local tourism attractions.
Love that.
In the meantime, though, you all don't care about what we're doing this weekend. So let me jump right into it. Today, to start off with our Articles of Interest segment, will be a little quicker than last episode, but just want to call out our new funds tracker, the Dakota Funds Tracker. This is coming out weekly. Morgan Holycross on our marketing team is writing it with the help of Konch, and our Director of Investment Research, Crystal Roy, I believe, is involved in that process too. We're tracking via the Form D filings all of the new funds that are launched across the industry. These are happening all the time. Sometimes they're really notable new launches, like the Apollo and Citi example I mentioned from the last episode. Other times they're just a continuation vehicle, which is still very fun, or they're just a different way, a tax-exempt fund, that kind of thing. But last week, across a variety of types of funds, we saw 20 new private equity funds and 15 on the real estate side. There was also a handful of private credit, and then a handful of hedge funds. Hedge funds continue to diversify, and there's a bunch of different types coming in. You can actually check out hedge fund performance too in Dakota Marketplace now, which is an exciting addition. It's getting a ton of positive feedback. For more on the Dakota Funds Tracker, you can go to dakota.com and go to our Learning Center. If you Google Dakota Funds Tracker, it'll also be the first thing that pops up, and you can subscribe to make sure you get that every Monday to see all of the new funds. It's nice to do some competitor analysis. Deal teams and investment teams and leadership teams are also enjoying keeping track of what's going on in the industry. Keeping track of what's going on in the industry, that's why you're listening to this podcast. Konch, take it away with the job and role changes.
Yeah, for sure. So just wanted to call out two job changes here. So Kimy Ruiz Seitz, earlier this year, she's joined Silicon Valley Community Foundation as the VP of Investment Operations. She's coming over from Morgan Stanley, where she's spent over 20 years in their private wealth management department. And then the other job change we'll call it here, 4100 Group Financial Services. They have hired Carina Diamond as their Chief Growth Officer to both the RIA and its parent company. This is per a press release late in September. Diamond previously worked under the same title for Dakota Wealth Management, not associated with Dakota Marketplace, but left mid last year to found her own consulting firm. As always, you can find all job changes and role changes within Dakota Marketplace right there on the homepage when you log in.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've been asked if we're affiliated with Dakota Wealth Management. We are not, but they seem to run a great firm. Very exciting stuff. On the RIA move side, we will talk a little bit about LPL first. So LPL has picked up a duo of advisors from Osaic. That is Jeff Minucci and David Reisman. They manage together about $150 million in assets. In their joining LPL, the two of them are creating their own firm, which will be under LPL's umbrella, and that firm is going to be called Greenpoint Wealth Management. Merrill Lynch, back in the news, as always. Merrill has picked up $1.5 billion under management from LA and Miami, and from a team and individual, respectively. So coming from Miami, they have picked up a advisor team. It is Kevin Wu and Michael Bagramian. Apologies on both of those pronunciations, but I feel like I might be okay there. They managed about $700 million in assets at Morgan Stanley under the Peninsula Group banner. And then in LA, Merrill has added Elena Ginsberg to their private wealth management team. Elena managed $660 million in assets and was generating $2.3 million in yearly revenue. As a team of one, that is unbelievable in LA. I don't mean to speculate, but I imagine there's some high-profile clients included in that $660 million, if I had to guess, just based on the location and the profile of the firm. Focused Financial, a firm we hear of all the time, feels like LPL, Focus, Dynasty, all these teams. But Focus has acquired an independent RIA based in Denver that is the CPG, the Custom Portfolio Group. That is a 3-person team led by David Twilbell. They manage over 175 million in client assets, over 454 accounts. So continuing over at Focus Financial to build a robust retail client base. Let's jump over to the institutional side, though, before we wrap it up.
Yeah, Pat. As far as searches goes, not a ton so far this week, but we do have an upcoming surge coming out of the Ohio Fire and Police pension, where they manage close to 19 billion in assets. They leverage Wilshire and Townsend as their consultants. But they're going to be looking for international small cap equity. This comes out of a September meeting. Wilshire will be issuing an RFP to replace their current international small cap manager. And then in Dallas, the Dallas Fire and Police Pension System, they recently have some recommendations for their target allocations. So they're going to be looking to increase their allocations to alts, specifically private equity and private credit. If you listen in on our last episode, Pat just mentioned Apollo and Citigroup's private credit direct lending program. We've been covering private credit a ton in the past, 3-4 weeks of doing this podcast. So that trend continues. Dallas Police and Fire are going to be increasing their private credit target by 4% and increasing their private equity target by 1%. Where they'll be taking a hit will be public equity and their natural resources allocations. They'll be decreasing their public equity target by 2% and decreasing their natural resources target by 2% as well there. And then lastly here, just some search updates coming out of Boston. So Quincy Retirement System, they manage a little over 800 million in assets, leveraging Makita as their consultant. On the core real estate side, just an update on this search here. So they have approved a $10 million commitment to TA Realty. For this search, JP Morgan, UBS, and Stockbridge were also considered as finalists. And then they provided an update on their private credit RFP as well. The finalists for this search include Neuberger Berman, HarborVest, CIFC, and Entrust. So congrats to those firms in the mix for that search. Pat, how about some other private market allocations that we've seen?
Yeah, happy to go into it. And again, private credit just continuing to be all that we're hearing about really since that ETF especially, but it's just happening all the time. Real estate debt, though, sort of adjacent, and we'll start here for the investment segment with San Diego City Employees Retirement making one commitment to real estate debt for $25 million with Sabal. That's for the Debt Opportunities Fund 3. On the Core Plus real estate side, they've invested with CBRE for $50 million. On the infrastructure side, they've made 2 commitments, $120 million in total. It's 2 $60 million commitments, one to Brookfield Core Infrastructure and the other to KKR Core Infrastructure, firms that we know well. So congratulations to those folks involved. We'll jump to Ohio. We don't hear that much about Ohio these days. Feels like there's been a lot of PA in Boston. But in Ohio, we've seen TPG receive a commitment from the School Employees Retirement System of Ohio for $100 million to their private equity middle market buyout fund. We'll jump on down to Texas here. A few of our colleagues last weekend actually were at the Longhorns game watching Arch Manning, which must have been pretty cool. So Texas County and District Retirement System, $47 billion under management. They have made a commitment to, no shock here, private credit with Alcentra Structured Credits Opportunity Fund. That is Fund 5. That was a $100 million commitment. We've got a ton of conferences coming up. Obviously, we have all of our Dakota events, which we just went through. We just had Boston yesterday evening, 2 days ago, with London next week, Philly at the end of the month, Toronto to open up November before we wrap up the year. But Konch, what about the events that aren't the ones that we're hosting?
Well, if you're not aware, we do have conferences in Dakota Marketplace. We recently added a little over 600 conferences just the other week to the platform. So if you're not going to be at any of our Dakota cocktail events, a couple conferences that might be of interest to you and your team coming up here. If you're going to be traveling in Singapore in November, there's going to be the Global Alts Asia Conference 2024. This is hosted by iConnections, so that'll be November 11th to 13th in Singapore. And then if you're in Abu Dhabi just by chance, in December, the Abu Dhabi Private Markets meeting hosted by Carmo Conferences will take place December 3rd to 4th. This is during the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix week. So are you going to be there, Pat?
I'm not, but I'm loving the idea of being in Abu Dhabi by chance. Like I've just accidentally taken a 27-hour flight or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, if you are there, that's going on. So again, we talk about private markets a ton on this podcast. And if you're an investor looking at private markets, just wanted to call those two out. And then lastly here, something a little bit more local to us. If you're going to be in New York on December 5th, there will be the Wharton and Kellogg CIO Summit at the New York Athletic Club. If you've been to our recent Dakota cocktail events, we have been at the New York Athletic Club too, so great venue. This is for all investment professionals are welcome to register for this event from all schools. And if you're not familiar, we do tag all of our contacts in Dakota Marketplace with the university that they went to. So we have a little over 32,000 contacts with their university tied. So if you're looking to get in touch with any of your alumni, you can do so within Dakota Marketplace as well.
Yeah, I love it. It's really cool that the Wharton Kellogg Summit too is open to professionals from all schools. So that's interesting. That'll wrap it up for this week on the Fundraising News Podcast. Before we start the weekend, I have to go to the Apple Store because I dropped my phone in the ocean in September. So that's quite fun. So anyway, I'll be dealing with that. But thank you everyone for listening in. We appreciate all the continued support, and we're very excited to talk to you all again next week.
Thanks everyone. Be back.
This episode is brought to you by Dakota Marketplace. Are you tired of constantly jumping between multiple databases and channels to find the right investment opportunities? Introducing Dakota Marketplace, the comprehensive institutional and intermediary database built by fundraisers for fundraisers. With Dakota Marketplace, you'll have access to all channels and asset classes in one place, saving you time and streamlining your fundraising process. Say goodbye to the frustration of searching through multiple databases, websites, Form ADVs, and say hello to a seamless and efficient fundraising experience. Sign up now and see the difference Dakota Marketplace can make for you. Visit dakota.com/Dakota-Marketplace today.